episode of Canada India Insight, a weekly talk show and a monthly publication produced by Impact Media and Events Corporation and supported by Canada India USA Development Forum. Our guest today is Honourable Ranj Pillai, the Deputy Premier of Yukon, a Canadian territory with the US state of Alaska to the west, Northwest Territories to the east, and British Columbia to the south. A small territory with approximately 41,000 people, one member of parliament and one senator to represent it in Ottawa. Mr. Pillai also holds the portfolios, apart from being a deputy premier, is also a Minister of Energy, Mines and Resources, Minister of Economic Development, and Minister responsible for the Yukon Development Corporation and the Yukon Energy Corporation as well. So, Mr. Pillai, welcome to Canada India Insight.
Great. Thank you so much. So happy to be here today.
Wonderful. So let's touch base briefly. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about the pandemic, but that's what everybody is going through. So let me start with that. How is Yukon, facing the pandemic?
Yeah, right now, I mean, things are very good. We've, of course, like many jurisdictions, we quickly put a number of programs in place. We have no active cases as of today. And we only had 11 cases in total. So I think we've done a very good job of keeping people healthy and ensuring that we had the right protocols in place. From an economic standpoint, which is the other big question that's being asked, proud to say that our public servants and officials that I get to work with, we put a program together that was the only one of its kind in the country. I think Quebec has now done something similar, but we essentially covered the fixed costs of businesses, all businesses that needed that support. And so I think a quick, aggressive move like that helped us in supporting the foundation of our economy. And now we're seeing, people go into a recovery. So that, I think, along with some other programs, ensuring that people could take paid sick leave if they did not have that opportunity. The government covered that. Now the rest of the country has again copied this program or trying to look at that blueprint. So I think overall our economy was doing extremely well just before COVID. So that I think gives a bit of help. But again, I think our health minister and our chief medical officer and others have come together to ensure that the jurisdiction is healthy, and now it's about economic recovery.
Sure. So what can Yukon offer to the rest of Canada and to India? And being a Minister for Economic Development, how can you personally help interested business leaders and companies who want to set up shop in Yukon?
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, COVID-19 has had an impact, worldwide, and of course, the Yukon is no exception. As I mentioned, prior to the pandemic, however, our economy was in the midst of a robust expansion. Our economy has continued to diversify and, has been built on a really strong foundation of key industries. When you look at the economic indicators for the Yukon, including unemployment or income, or even population growth or retail sales, our numbers were all going in the right direction. Our gross domestic product grew by 2.6% in 2018 and was projected to grow by 3.3% in 2019. And really we saw growth potential right through to 2023. So of course our economy is very diverse. We have, and it's, very dynamic in the sense that we have a lot of resource extraction. And we also have a strong tourism sector, which now is under pressure, but, inevitably will rebound. Government plays a key role as well, because when we looking at just preparing to speak with you today, when you think about the Yukon is 1/7 the size of India. Of course, India has 1.35 billion people, and there's 41,000 people here. So you can
let's not even talk about number of people.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something we're in a jurisdiction that has we from a government perspective, the public service has a huge responsibility to oversee such a large area of our country. And so government, of course, plays a key role. And then we're seeing knowledge-based economy continuing to grow, where people are in a position where they want to have a great quality of life, but they can work remotely for companies. You know, we've got people that work for some of the biggest management consulting firms in the world, and they live in our community, but you know, they fly around the world when they have to, but this is where they choose to be home. And our university has just opened. We were the only country in the circumpolar world that did not have a university north of the 60th parallel. And we had planned big celebrations. Of course, we're going to have to wait to have those, but the Yukon University has just opened as well. And that's been a huge draw for from students from India as well. And we can chat about that in a bit. You know, another thing that we were quite proud of, Whitehorse, our capital, was named by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, named Whitehorse the most entrepreneurial city in Canada in 2018. And we were competing against Vancouver and Toronto and Montreal. And so for us, some of the, you know, where we see our tech industry going and where we see entrepreneurship and startups, even in a small place in the north, it's starting to really grow. So, you know, those are some things I think that are key that we can help with, but also because we have such a small population, we really pride ourselves on that ability to work directly with entrepreneurs. So of course, in a country the size of India, or even in a city the size of Toronto, for people to have access to their Minister of Economic Development could be very difficult. But here, I know in my role, I'm very hands-on. I spent the morning speaking with a number of companies. I try to make sure I'm always there to help and understand each and every situation and to support people.
Yeah, because I recently interviewed Mr. Vipul, who is the Minister of Economic Development for Ontario. And
Yes.
he recently went to India just before,
Yes.
towards the end of last year, right? Anyway, so while 87% roughly Yukon residents were born in Canada in 2011, the recent stats says that nearly 63% of immigrants between 2006 and 2011, 63% were born in Asia. So do you expect this trend to continue?
Yeah,
More
absolutely.
people coming to Yukon, more people from outside of Canada.
Absolutely. Of course, the biggest population growth from Asia has been from two countries specifically, and it's really been about people moving from the Philippines, but also now we're seeing a really strengthening trend from India, and a lot of it has had to do with our university, and of course people wanting to come. Absolutely, students, and as well, you know, our unemployment rate just before COVID was I believe I don't have my numbers right in front of me, but I believe it was 2.3%. I mean, exceptional unemployment rate. So people saw opportunity. What I'm really excited about and proud about is when I speak with, you know, I take an opportunity to stop students from India on the street, or they may have part-time jobs, and whenever I have a chance to speak with them, to ask them what their plan is. And you know, what we've seen in the past is as people move to Canada from around the world, they tend to want to live in urban areas because they have community there in a cultural fabric that they can feel supports from. But what I'm excited about is when I speak to students from India and I ask them, you know, are you looking to go through an immigration program, which I'm the Minister of Immigration as well. So you know, are you planning to stay here? Are you looking to move to a bigger center? And you know, time and time again, the students from India are saying they want to live here, and they want to make this their home. And it's because they really appreciate the quality of life. You know, it's the opportunity, it's the quality, you know, the quality of life you have from the cleanest air in the world, identified by the World Health Organization, right down to the many things that one can do, whether it's entrepreneurial or recreational. So I think we're seeing a lot more students decide to stay here. and
Yeah.
to make this their home.
Well, of course, needless to say, they don't face the gridlocks or, being stuck on the highway for like 2 hours, going to work,
Totally.
coming back home.
Yeah.
Those things are not there in Yukon, I guess.
No, no. When I have a moment to be outside of Whitehorse, our main city, and I'm driving to a rural area that may be 35 or 45 minutes outside of Whitehorse, and in the background you see these beautiful mountains with bright green lakes, Emerald Lake, which is just south of here. And when I drive by, most times there's a group of Indian students that have taken their Saturday to go out there and take pictures. And I think people just, our smaller communities are seeing as well more and more individuals that are coming from India and moving to those communities. I think I should say we have a foundation of extremely strong entrepreneurs from India, and they moved here many, many years ago. Some of our biggest retailers and some of our, one of our largest construction companies is owned by entrepreneurs from India that moved here some 30, 40, many decades ago, and have helped build this territory as well, our modern economy. So now we're seeing a resurgence of that with other students coming.
So expanding a little bit on a question that I asked earlier, while most, as you also mentioned, while most new immigrants and business investors, they go to GTA, first, and then maybe to some other major cities like Vancouver or Montreal or Calgary. Why should they come to Whitehorse or Yukon in general? Are there any specific incentives offered by Yukon?
Yeah, we try to ensure that we have very competitive programs when it comes to immigration. We have the Yukon nominee program, which would be similar to the nominee program across the country, and we're continuing to increase the amount of spots there are in that program. So I think people have found that program very favorable and has worked for a lot of individuals. We also negotiated a new program with the federal minister last year, and that's just starting. And it's a program where we're starting with a small. I think we only have a allotment of about 50 spots just as a pilot this year, but it gives individuals the opportunity to work in some of our smaller communities, but they can have up to 3 employers. So it gives them a chance to work part-time in a number of different positions. It's something that we needed for our economy because we were short on capacity in some of our areas, but they didn't need full-time individuals. But it also gives the individuals who are taking the opportunity a chance to work in a couple of different areas and get experience. I also think that our Yukon business nominee program is something that may interest folks, and I can, of course, provide contact at the end of the interview, but that's a program where individuals have the opportunity to come into the Yukon to buy into an existing business, if not buy the business in full. And depending on, there's some benchmarks around their current personal wealth, as well as the amount of money they're going to spend. And I think the threshold of investment is about $300,000, but that's also a pathway towards citizenship, but also into our immigration program. So that is now we're seeing more individuals that are coming in, and I think Yukon's not unlike many parts of Canada where individuals, you see Canadian family-run businesses, and now at the generation they're at, the children may not have interest in running the business. And so you've got these entrepreneurs in Canada that are looking to figure out who can come in and take over. So I think we've seen people from around the world embrace that opportunity and come in and breathe new life into the business and take it on. So many different opportunities. Those are just a few through immigration, but I think overall, even from a sense to startup, we're seeing entrepreneurs that are coming in and working in that sector as well. So that's the many opportunities we have.
Well, so while, as you may be aware, mayors and premiers of various Canadian cities and provinces visit India regularly to promote bilateral trade and investments. Will Yukon be willing, interested to do the same, or have you done that already, visits to India, different provinces?
Yeah, we absolutely, we're really focused on continuing to strengthen our relationships in India and with both the individuals who represent India, being the Consul General or the High Commissioner, as well as the entrepreneurs that are there. And whenever I have an opportunity to meet with chambers of commerce that represent Indian business, I of course take that opportunity. We've had over the last number of years, I think a lot of the relationships started to be built around the massive mining conference that happens in Toronto every year. It's called PDAC, Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada puts it on. There's 25 to 30,000 people, and we've seen the presence from India grow there the last number of years. So I've sat down with Minister Tomar to talk about opportunities and to work with some of the other ministers from India, federal ministers, national ministers, and we've talked about opportunities and where the Yukon can support and help on the mining side in India. Really, I think we just do a good job here of ensuring that people in our communities, in our rural areas, are whether it's our Indigenous governments or individuals there are all we're partners in this work. And I think what I've been educated on is some of the things in India was really how do you ensure that individuals in rural India have a chance to be part of that economy. And of course, that's something that we've offered to work on, and we've got companies that do that really well. As well, that the Consul General Joshi in Vancouver has been very kind to me and has spent time here in Whitehorse, and we've put together events for her to meet with some of our citizens that have been here for a long time and some of our students that just arrived here. And so that's been helpful, as well as the meeting with the Deputy High Commissioner in Ottawa. And now, of course, there's a new High Commissioner, and the former High Commissioner spent a bit of time with me. So we were actually ready in 2020 to spend some time. We were really just getting ready to focus on where we should be spending our time in India. Our renewable energy sector is really growing here. And so, there's been an interest in identifying where to procure certain materials, which we think there could be a good partnership in India with that. On the tech side, we continue to want to push our sector and increase startups. So we feel, we just kicked off a new fund that it's about $60 million, and it's got investors from across the country. And so trying to leverage that fund and talent from India to come here and to look at bringing the startups here as well. On the education side, we want to continue to recruit students from India and let them know what we have to offer here. And again, on the tourism side, we still think, we're looking at, I think tourism sector, the amount of people from India coming to Canada continues to grow, and it's growing fast. And, we want to be able to understand what people from India want to see in tourism products. And so that's something else. I've worked with the Minister of Tourism, my colleague, on that topic. So we're very focused to continue to build the relationship. And really, I think if we weren't in the scenario that we are now with COVID, our dates would be set, and we'd be trying to get that trip in place. So it's something I'll be focused on moving forward. And I think it's extremely important, not just for the Yukon, but for Canada, to understand the importance of this relationship, understanding the diaspora that exists, and the significant opportunity for both Canada and India as we plan to work together.
So we'll be happy to play a little supporting role, through all the three platforms that we have. And as you mentioned, we can discuss afterwards. So let's talk a little bit about your Indian roots, if I dare say. I believe you are originally from Kerala, right? So are you still in touch? Are you still visiting, personal capacity, officially?
It's something. I've had family as of late come and visit me that have just moved from India to Toronto. So that's been fun to connect with some of my cousins. Yeah, my dad moved from Kerala in the late '60s and moved to Canada. He lives in Nova Scotia, and my family's still there. I'm on the other side of the country. He is, has contributed lots to his community since he's moved from India to Canada. He'll get mad at me if I say his age maybe, but I'll say that he's been practicing medicine for over 60 years, and he's still doing it, and he's very busy still in what he does. He doesn't stop.
He came in the
continued.
60s. Sorry, not to interrupt. You said
Yes.
he came in the 60s, right? So.
Yeah, late 60s. So he's been in Canada for a long time. He came and practiced medicine and did attend school to do some more specialty when he came to Canada.
So you came with him as family during the 60s.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally. So that's at that point. So he has came on his own at that point, and then moved to Nova Scotia. So it's again spending time with family and trying to get time to go over to India. I think for me, I try to make sure that it's not going to be work related, but to get to spend some time in Kerala. And I had a really neat opportunity in 2018. The Association of Kerala medical graduates, who are a very strong group of doctors across North America, they have events across each year at somewhere. I think they move it even internationally. So they hosted an event in Ottawa, and I had a chance to speak at the event, and the organizers were so kind. And so it was a real treat of amazing food and lots of talented and interesting people to meet. So yeah, we still continue to try to be around the culture when I can, and to learn as much as I can about it as well.
When was the last time you visited India?
You know what? So for me, growing up in Nova Scotia, I haven't even had a chance to. All of my knowledge has been shared with me through family members, and I think like many people with Indian roots, I have a strong work ethic, and so anytime somebody tells me I need to try to take a couple of weeks and go to India and travel, I never seem to be able to make myself put that time aside. Now I'm getting much older. Time has gone by. I think I've put my time in working, and I do need to take those at least 2 or 3 weeks and put my tools down and spend some time in India. So I think that trip is just around the corner for me. And I think once I spend a bit of time in Kerala as well as throughout other areas of India, it'll probably be something that happens a lot more frequently, I'm feeling.
So start eating some spicy food from here.
Oh, I could do that. I'm really good at that. I've been training for decades.
All right. So last two questions. With one Liberal MP and one Conservative Senator,
Sure.
is Yukon sufficiently represented federally? And does it also help to have two different parties represent Yukon in the federal houses?
Yeah, and I should just clarify. We are and it might, I think it should be reflected there. But our MP, yes, is MP Bagnall, and he's a Liberal MP. The Conservative senator that was in place, Senator Lang, has now retired, and our new senator is Senator Duncan. And Senator Duncan now is part of the independent group of senators. So, but I think, I think it's a great question. And I think no matter what, you want as many people, the term I would use, on the Hill, as many people on Parliament Hill as possible to ensure that the priorities of your province or territory are properly properly reflected, and so individuals know. But I think one thing the Yukon is always has always shown, whether it's been conservative or liberal. We've had great leaders that have represented the Yukon. For a number of years, the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada was from the Yukon and was a longtime MP, Nielsen, longtime MP. We had another individual from here who was the first woman leader, Audrey McLaughlin, first woman leader, and she was of a federal party, and she was the leader of the New Democratic Party of Canada. And we've had as well, the hardest working MP out of all MPs, he's been named that a number of times, is MP Bagnall. So I think we've always had really strong leaders that can make sure their voice is heard, and I think that's the key. We've had great relationships over the last number of years at a bilateral level with the federal government, and I know that in this case now, Premier Silver has done a great job of making sure our priorities are understood. And I think, as I alluded to earlier in the interview, we've had different programs that we've built in really a small community that we have here, comparably to Toronto or Ontario, but bigger provinces are now using the templates that we've built. So I think we try to get it right. When it comes to our First Nation governments here, 11 of our 14 First Nation governments have modern treaties in place, which really reflects a really progressive relationship between our government and them and their communities, as well as between our First Nation governments and the federal government. So it is a very unique ecosystem of governance in the Yukon. But I think between our First Nation chiefs, our elected officials, our senators, and others, we do a good job of making sure that everybody in Canada understands what the Yukon's about and what our interests are.
Wonderful. So the last question, if I am correct, I mean, if these numbers are correct, in a total budget of 1.62 billion for the year 2021, Yukon had a surplus of around 4 million, right? So these days, as you know, many provincial governments, even the federal government, it looks like they don't know what a budget surplus means. So I mean, how do you do that? Do you expect those numbers to hold in a pandemic situation? And does it help if the Premier is also Minister of Finance?
Yeah, I think I'll start with the last question and go through. I think it absolutely is it's an advantage to have a Premier as the Finance Minister. I think that happened for a couple of reasons. We have a Premier who has a background in mathematics, so that's always a good start for the job. Secondly, because we're in a remote area, I think having the Premier meet with all the premiers in the country, so he will be at the table with Premier Ford or others. And at the same time, he's now, I think, the only Premier in the country that holds the finance portfolio as well. So because of that, he also was there at the Finance Minister's table. And I think that's really important and it helps us with our relationship with the federal government. We brought a surplus in. We had some work to do as a government when we were elected a few years ago. And we tried to tighten things up financially, and the Premier did a great job of providing that leadership. And we thought we were going to have a surplus actually in the spring of 2021, and we got there a year early. And not only that, we came in with a surplus, and we also had one of our largest capital budgets that we've ever tabled, and it was a big capital budget. It was about 360 million of capital expenditures. And so when you have 40,000 people and you do the math on that, that's a lot of build out, and plus a lot of other work by other levels of government. I think to say now, it would be premature to say that for me to identify the numbers, because you're hearing that across the country. I think everybody's trying to understand where they're going to land financially. But I think, I have a lot of faith in our Premier and Finance Minister to get us to where we need to go. And I think as a government, we've always been, the values that we've shared have been based on, ensuring that that the relationship with our Indigenous governments was strong, because there was some challenges previously in Yukon that led to a lot of court activity, legal activity. We also knew we wanted to grow the economy, and we needed to look after the most vulnerable, but still provide opportunity for people to continue to increase their quality of life here. But we always knew we were going to be conservative when it came to the finances of Yukon, and we haven't wavered from that. Keeping our financial house in order is something that I know the Premier is strong on, and in my role as Deputy Premier and Economic Development Minister, I'm very committed to, because we are seeing many jurisdictions now, be in a position where when they get through this, there's going to be a lot of thinking to do, and we want to try to make sure that we are respectful of every single dollar of our taxpayers' money, because that's really their money. We're just being given an opportunity to take this responsibility on, and we take it very seriously.
So if there's anything you wish to add, maybe something that I missed, or you want to say anything?
No, I just want to, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and to share a little bit about this really magnificent place that I get to call home. Again, for anybody who's listening today, Yukon, yukon.ca is our main government website. You can find my contact details under the Department of Economic Development, Energy, Mines, Resources, or any of my other responsibilities. And I truly am saying to individuals, I'm open to please communicate with me if you have interests or questions. We want to see more international investment. It truly is an incredible place to come and spend time, to travel and visit, or to come in and build a life, and to have a family. And we've got phenomenal institutions, from health to education and so on. So I think it's worth anybody who listens today, at the very least, take a moment to do a little bit of research. It may not be a place, the Yukon may not be a place that comes up on everybody's radar, but for those that come here, I think it leaves a truly lasting impression. So I look forward to continuing to have discussions with you. And again, thank you for the opportunity today.
My pleasure. So thank you for giving us the time, during these challenging times, I would say. I'm sure you have got a lot on your plate. Just the number of portfolios, it took me a long time to read out, so I can understand how much work there must be, you must be doing in each of those ministries. But as I mentioned, it will be a pleasure, if we can be of any assistance, and looking forward to receiving your contacts afterwards, so we can, we can promote Yukon within Canada and also in India through all our platforms. So once again, thank you very much, Mr. Pillai.
Thank you.
And looking forward to working with you later as well.
Thank you so much.
Take care.